So today is time to discuss about assessment process. So in this video I will discuss about formative assessment and summative assessment. Also I will discuss about the what is difference between formative and summative, and what are similarity between formative assessment and summative assessment, and which type of method we should use to assess the performance of any student, and which type of assessment method is more beneficial to educator as well as for student. So assessment is a process in which a teacher can assess the performance of a student throughout the course or after completion of the course. And also, when any teacher is going to assess the performance of a student, there are 3 to 4 questions arises. Are student actually learning what they were intending to learn? Are they making progress? And also, how can teacher adopt their instruction tool and method in order to improve the learning experience and academic outcome for all the student? So all our things can be assessed through a better assessment process. And also, assessment allows both instructor and the student to monitor their progress towards achieving the learning objective, their goal, and also they can check are they progressing over the time or not. So to assess the performance of any student, variety of assessment strategy can be applied, including internal tests, benchmark, viva voice, or diagnostic and screening assessment. And also there are many type of assessment like presentation, classroom activities, giving home assignment, classroom assignment, some surprise test. So there are various methods, there are various strategy. By applying this, teacher can assess the performance of a student. Basically there are 2 type of assessment which are mostly used. One is formative assessment, second is summative assessment. So in this video our main focus on to discuss what is formative and summative assessment. So many of educators are very much familiar with these terms. So sometimes due to terminology they mislead the topic or mislead the concept of both type of assessment. So also we will discuss how they are differ to each other, means what are basically difference between formative assessment and summative assessment, and how they are applied and how you can apply in your learning method, and what are purpose of these two types of assessment. So we will discuss one by one assessment. So currently firstly we will discuss what is formative assessment. So basically formative assessment in layman term you can say continuous assessment throughout the course. If suppose someone is studying in semester 1 and we are taking some periodically test, some surprise tests, some quizzes, some presentation. So basically this is example of formative assessment, because we are assessing a student performance on a periodic basis or throughout the course. So formative assessment is used to monitor student learning, to provide ongoing feedback that can be used by instructor or teacher to improve their teaching and by student to improve their learning. So through the formative assessment, teacher also can assess what they are delivering that is beneficial for student or not, by assessing test, by asking sub question related to that particular topic. If a student is responding, measure of a student is responding, means whatever teacher is delivering that is reaching to the student. And formative assessment can be thought of as checkup to monitor and evaluate the student progress during the course of their learning. Here during is a main key. During means whenever teacher is teaching something, so during the whole course teacher can take feedback from the student, and also teacher can assess to the student in real time. So according to that teacher can plan their teaching method. if a student is getting, uh, that is okay, otherwise teacher can change their mode of teaching. And with formative assessment, teachers have constant opportunities to shift and adapt their instruction. Formative assessment measures student progress, but it can also assess your own progress as an instruction. For example, suppose in a class you have implemented a new activity in a class, so you can observe and also you can take feedback from the student कि either they are learning something or not. If they are learning, you can implement that same concept in next time. If student is not getting anything from that implementation, so definitely next time you are not going to implement that particular activity. So also you can assess. By this method also you are assessing the performance of a student, because a student are not responding, and also you can assess yourself, yes, this is not a good implementation, so definitely next time you are not going to implement, and also you can improve that particular area. So a primary focus of formative assessment is to identify areas that may need improvement. Formatting assessment present an opportunity for teacher to personalize instruction to the unique need of each student. Through the formative assessment also we can know what is level of that particular student. According to that particular student, we can change our method of delivering lecture, and also we can change the method of instruction. So as per formative assessment, you can personalize instruction. For example, a student who is failing to grasp a concept after completing a worksheet might benefit from a class game that practices the same skill and concept. So there are various methods to tell something to the student. So maybe suppose from one method you are just trying to tell something and one or two students are not getting, so you can change the way of teaching. So maybe next time a student can understand what you was trying to say. Now talking about type of formative assessment, so there are various method by which you can assess student formatively. First one is observation during in class activities. In these class activities also you can assess the performance of the student, and also you can know level of the student. Homework exercises, homework assignment, या class assignment. There is also question and answer session that can be beneficial to assess the performance of a student. Conferences between the instructor and student. In class activities where student informally present their result. Student feedback collected by periodically answering some specific question about the instruction and their self evaluation of performance and progress. Quizzes through the class game and through the presentation also you can evaluate. On spot evaluation can be taken. Project can be given and can be assessed. And exit ticket and classroom activities, teacher observation, and many more techniques. So by this these are some technique you can use for formative assessment. And for example, just I am taking simple example. Suppose you are a science teacher, so if you want to test, so you can give a material, a state of matter, and you can ask a student to just identify this is solid, liquid or gas. So this type of mini question also help to understand where your student lie, or your student understand the concept whatever you have taught. Now also formative assessment tends to be qualitative. Teacher often use them to just get a quick read and how well a student is progressing. So even observing a student as they work and jotting down notes can be type of formative assessment. And formative assessment work great when they are used on a regular basis. That regularity could be based on a calendar. Every Monday you can take, every Thursday you can take, and after completion of each unit you can take. So basically formative assessment are beneficial when you are taking periodically. Now talking about summative assessment. So summative assessment occur after the fact, means they measure how much a student has learned, retained and mastered over the course of study, instructional unit or the lesson. Means after completion of course summative assessment occur. So really did the student actually learn what they were expected to learn? So here formative assessment held during the course and summative assessment held after completion of the course. So summative assessment can take a variety of forms, including state test, final exam, report, presentation and project that demonstrate the cumulative knowledge of a student has gained over the course of study or during a specific lesson or unit. They are usually aligned with the SPIDE and standard criteria, benchmark and rubrics, and tend to use quantitative data and delivers result in form of a scale, score, percentage and grade. So in layman term you can see formative assessment is ongoing assessment and summative assessment is after completion of a particular course. Summative assessment takes place after the learning has been completed and they provide information and feedback that sums up the teaching and learning process. Typically no more formal learning is taking place at this stage other than the incidental learning which might take place through the completion of project and assignment. So basically a summative assessment takes place after the learning has been completed. Now a type of summative assessment, examination as like a major high stake examination, final examination, term paper. This can be also example of formative assessment because this is held during your semester or course. Project also, this can be example of formative assessment because maybe a teacher is just giving project after each and every unit, completion of each and every unit. So this is also can be formative assessment. So there are various type of assessment. Those can be this type assessment can be summative as well can be formative assessment, because if you are talking about test, so that test can be formative assessment as well as summative assessment. It totally depend ki when you are taking that test. If you are taking that test during the course, that is example of formative. After completion of any course, that is summative. Performance, student evaluation of the course, instructional self evaluation, end of a class, project and report. So basically these are type of summative assessment. Now talking about difference between formative and summative assessment. So if formative assessment measure how a student is learning during a course of study, summative assessment is designed to measure how much a student has learned after a unit or course has reached its completion. So here is a big difference. Easy learning means this is continuous process, and how much means after completion of the course. So during the formative assessment, any type we can measure the performance of a student, but in case of summative, after completion of a course we can measure. One way in which the two are commonly differentiate, that the formative is a considered assessment for learning, and while summative is considered assessment of learning. So formative assessment can happen as frequently as the teacher needs, and the information gleaned can impact one's teacher in real time. Formative assessment is an ongoing activity. The evaluation takes place during the learning process, not just one time but several times. This totally depend upon the teacher and instructor ki how they are going to plan the time of formative assessment. A summative evaluation takes place at a complete other time, not during the process but after it. Means Summative assessment generally takes after completion of the course. With the formative assessment, you try to figure out whether a student is doing well or need help by monitoring the learning process. When you use summative assessment, you assign grade. The grade tell you whether the student achieved the learning goal or not. For formative assessment, the purpose is to improve student learning. In order to do this, you need to be able to give meaningful feedback. For summative assessment, the purpose is to evaluate student achievement. So here you can see the major difference. In formative assessment, just we are trying to improve the student learning. In summative assessment, only we are checking the student achievement. Formative assessment include little content areas, for example, 3 formative evaluation for of one chapter, and summative assessment include complete chapter or a content area, for example, one evaluation at the end of a one chapter. Formative assessment consider a evaluation as a process. This way the teacher can see the student grow and steer the student in upward direction. With summative assessment, it is harder for you to steer the student in the right direction, because for this you have to wait for the completion of the course. Okay, so the evaluation is already done, that's why summative assessment or evaluation are considered to be more of a product. So in my point of view, till this now, I think formative assessment is very much good, so you can check student learning. Summative assessment provides teacher with an overview of a student have learned throughout the particular unit of a study, a semester, or you can see a full year, all the cumulative knowledge and skill that they have gained over a long span of time. Summative assessment can also help teacher determine if the student are ready to proceed to the next level or not. So and also because summative assessment can carry high stake, so in such program it is very much important that the assessment should be valid and reliable. Multiple choice items should be written carefully, and written and oral responses should have a clear rubrics and consistent evaluation in order to give accurate, reliable measure of student achievement. So with formative assessment, you stand a much better chance of getting a clear picture of what the student learn that they are weak, but you would not be able to determine what they will return over the course of time from that particular assessment. With summative assessment, you can see what they retained, but at that point it is too late to change your teaching and correct the past. So in formative assessment, at least by day or after a week you can check the level of a student, also you can change the method of teaching. But in case of summative assessment, you can see what they have written, but at that point it is too late to change your teaching and correct the past. So ideally both forms of assessment should be combined into an integrated system that can deliver learning data all along the way. So if you are planning for assessment, so both should be combined, and this is good way to assess the student performance. So in nowadays teaching method also you can see semester system examination, there are various component of continuous assessment. Basically continuous assessment is example of formative assessment, and final exam is a example of summative assessment. So if we are talking about what are similarities, so there are many similarities can be possible between formative and summative assessment in the classroom. And suppose an essay demonstrating knowledge of the Indian Revolution, for example, could be assigned in the middle of a unit to give a teacher a clear read on what the student has learned thus far, or it could be assigned at the end of the semester as a summative wrap up of everything the student has learned during the unit. So this can be possibility So the difference between formative and summative assessment is primarily related to the ways in which assessment results are used. As many as assessment developed for formative purpose can be used for summative purpose and vice versa. Now example of formative and summative assessment. So here you can see through this picture, formative in class discussion and summative instructor created exam, clicker question, standardized test, low stake group work, final project. So basically in left hand side you can see the example of formative assessment, and in right hand side you can see example of summative assessment. Now this is a last slide. This is only comparison of formative and summative assessment. So here you can see formative assessment occurs frequently throughout the instruction and focuses on assessment for the learning, inform ongoing instruction to improve student learning outcome in real time, usually cover discrete content, often use qualitative data to evaluate a current state based on the informal measurement. And this is summative assessment. So occur after the instruction is completion, focuses on assessment of learning, evaluate how well the instruction worked in the past, covers larger instructional unit of study, often uses quantitative data to apply formal measurement. So in this slide we have discussed there are two major assessment, one is formative and one is summative. So just I want to summarize. Formative means continuous assessment of a student, and summative means a final assessment of a student after completion the course. Formative assessment is example of continuous assessment that include surprise test, assignment, class test, presentation. And summative is in general term you can see the final exam after completion of semester, after completion of the course. So hope you understand the concept of formative assessment and summative assessment. So thank you for watching this video, and if you have any query related this topic, so you can comment on this video and definitely I will reply. So thank you for watching this. Thank you.